Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Jesus Sosa, Miami Mortgage. Wanted to introduce myself to you guys. Thank you for joining us on Facebook Live and YouTube. We are here with Christina Candelaria, the productivity coach for Keller Williams. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. She's a great friend, but she's also a very knowledgeable person in the industry. Guys, what we're going to talk to you guys about today is the new normal, right? So real estate, a lot of you guys got into real estate in the last year or so. Things have changed drastically, right, in the last 6 months. But in the last year, real estate has changed even more, right? Because the pandemic changed everything. Before the pandemic, what were the interest rates, more or less?
4.
We have 4 or 5, right around that number for FHA, 5, low 5s for conventional, right? So conventional is always going to be higher. Anybody know why?
Depends.
Not really. It's always going to be higher, unless you're buying down the rate.
Or have amazing credit.
The FHAs are backed by the government or the...
Correct. So the FHA is insured, right, by the U.S. government. So the interest rates are lower because when I, as a bank, Miami Mortgage, we're going to sell that loan to the FHA directly. So that we don't have to worry about putting it into the open market like with, the loans are sold to the open market, which is, Wall Street, right? That's called mortgage-backed securities. So there's a system in the Wall Street market, right, that buys mortgages, and it's called the mortgage-backed securities. So that's what really controls your interest rates. But most people watch and look at, and I'll show you this in a few minutes, we're going to look at the 10-year treasury, right? The 10-year treasury is really what you can look at, right, to be able to see what's going on in the market. Usually I multiply it by 2, and they'll give you what the interest rate is for that day, more or less, right? So, like Christina said, if you have an 800 credit score, which I've seen very few in my 15 years, right? I do see some 760s, 780s, but I see very few 800s. I see a lot more 640s and 620s, right, than I see 800s or 760s. But that's why the FHA usually has a lower interest rate because they have the insurance from the government, right? And we can sell the loans to them directly. So it makes it easier. So it's basically like that. It's like the same thing with the VA. They're guaranteed, right? So what that does is it allows you to see that the VA is going to guarantee the loan. So we sell it to the VA as well.
And
right?
lower interest as well.
Yep, exactly. They're a little bit tougher, right, to do. Some of the agents are saying, oh, I want FHA, I want conventional loans, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, guys, the best loans are government backed because they're guaranteed and insured. So that makes it a lot easier for everybody to be able to do that, right?
Yeah, one thing you can always say to the listing agent is at the end of the day, the money's the same. You're going to get it the same way.
Amazing. You know what? They're not going to get $1 in cash. They're going to get this money wired into their account the day of the closing, whether it's $100,000 that's transferred from Christina's account, or is the FHA, or is Miami Mortgage sending the money to them, right? It's going to be the same thing.
Yeah, and I saw a statistic that FHA, I believe they closed like 95% of their loans, and conventional was like 96%. It was like very minimal change in who's getting closed and who's not. So just educating that listing agent, showing them, yes, they're putting less percent down. So really, the lender's gonna give you that money. So there's no difference other than days, obviously, the closing days that might change from a cash buyer. And of course, appraisal, that would be another big difference between a cash buyer and a lender and a lending deal. But really, you want to make sure that you're doing as close in dates to a cash deal. And another tip, guys, if you want to be cash buyers and still stand out with lending, is if I give you an offer for $300,000 in cash, and I give you an offer for $315 financed, are you gonna wait those 10 extra days for $315 for $15,000?
Of course.
Of course you will. So you just gotta go a little bit higher than what that cash buyer is willing to do, and they get to change something extra in their lives, right? That 10 to 15,000. Now they're willing to wait those extra days. So that's really my tip. Always figuring out, yeah, you have cash buyers. We're ready to beat them. We're ready to go a little bit higher.
Well, the new normal is this too, Chris, and I'm going to jump on piggyback on that. And I'm going to ask you this question because again, the reason Christina is so knowledgeable is she deals with so much stuff, right? Every single day, looking at different contracts, looking at different opportunities, different deals. I know that in the last 3 or 4 months, we've run into the situation where a lot of sellers don't, or listing agents, because I think the sellers don't understand anything, right? They just want their money, right? So the listing agents want conventional loans or cash, right? And I'll say this to you, is there any difference between an FHA loan and a conventional loan? I mean, if you're going in a loan, right? There's no difference, right?
No, the only time that it does make sense for a house, for conventional, is if it needs work. As in, it's not gonna be safe housing, it's not gonna meet the criteria of FHA. There are certain houses, and what my script is when I call listing agent and they have cash and conventional, is why would it not qualify for FHA? You're putting it on them, right? Always come from curiosity. Cause it could be that they cannot sell to FHA buyers. If they bought within a certain time frame, I think within 90 days.
If they're doing a fix and flip, they cannot do FHA until the 91st day.
Correct, so that could be one reason, right? We're not just assuming that they have to take FHA, we're saying, why can't we do FHA? Okay, the fix and flip, right, that would be one.
The roof is destroyed.
The roof is destroyed.
Right.
There's holes in the walls, right? There are certain things that need to
No
happen.
appliances.
Also another one, the what's it called? The gates over the windows.
Oh yeah, they have the gates
Oh,
like
yeah.
that's
Those
those.
old
Again,
school.
those are fire hazards, right? People can die in there. They
So
can't get out.
there are certain things that if I was to ask that and they say, oh, it's not gonna qualify because A, B, and C,
But what
Now
if there's what if there's a lock?
a latch, yeah, then you're
You
good.
can open the
But it has to be on
keys.
every window.
Right.
Yeah, that is true.
Okay. Good question. And so now you're coming from curiosity, you have a better understanding, and if your client doesn't qualify for conventional, then that would be a deal breaker, right? So at that situation, that's the only difference. But when it comes to, again, at the end of the day, the money's the money, and it doesn't matter what they're qualifying for.
So going back to that, right? Again, we're talking about the new normal, right? Because things have
Yeah.
changed, right? In the old days, it didn't matter to the client, right? Whether it was FHA, VA, they just wanted to close a deal and get their money and walk on, right? The pandemic and the fact that there's no inventory in the marketplace, right? Do you guys all agree that there's no inventory? Raise your hands. Yes, show of hands. No inventory. We got good. So there's no inventory in the marketplace. The prices are a little bit elevated, right? To a level that's crazy.
Sure.
No? You gonna agree with that?
I mean, since I'm up here, I guess I'll give my opinion.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
So I've said this in coaching, so if you're coaching, sorry, you probably already have heard it.
Mhm.
For me, Miami has been a major city for a while now.
Mhm.
And yet it's been an inexpensive major city when you compare it to other cities,
New
in
York, San
California,
Francisco.
New York, yeah, when you compare it to other places that are major cities. So if we look at in the last 10 years ago, right?
Mhm.
Because we had so much land and there was still so much getting developed, we were inexpensive compared to them. Now that we're more developed and people are moving here, and of course during COVID that there was such major changes, first people realized that they can work from wherever, obviously political views, no state tax, weather, it brought a lot of people here. So really, we just caught up with the market because we're a major city. So for me, I don't think that it's overpriced. I think we finally caught up to where we were.
No, but I'm talking about just the fact that let me correct that. So when I said overpriced, like some listing agents are putting a house that we all know as realtors, right, or lenders that is gonna rally appraise for 400, they're listing it for 450.
Got it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are always gonna be price reductions
Right.
at the end of the day.
Exactly, so that's what I meant by that. I still feel, and I know, cause I'm very busy right now, so this is really weird for me, right? Like, the market should be slowing down for me, it's just the opposite right now. I got 3 contracts this week, which I didn't get 2 contracts for a couple of weeks, right? And the reason being was that, the contracts came in, the contracts came in, right? Because of the fact that people are now worried that the interest rates are going to go to 7.5%, right? So they're saying, let me buy now before they go to 7.5%,
Yeah.
right?
I actually had the most buyers contact me in the last 2 weeks than in all of May.
So I also heard a lot of the realtors say to me like, oh, what are we gonna do? I said, you know what? Call all your people now and just say, again, ask them the question, let them answer you. Are you okay paying $3,000 in rent? Or are you okay going out right now still at 6%, which is still a great interest rate, before they go to 7.5 or 8, and you guys can still buy your home and pay, $2,200 in mortgage.
There was a funny meme, I don't know if you guys saw it, and it said they don't wanna pay 6% interest rate, but they'll pay 19% in credit card interest rate, 10% interest in their car payment. So they're willing to pay that much interest in a smaller loan, but something that they're gonna be getting over $400,000, they don't wanna pay anything.
Or even worse, right, is this. You're buying stuff that has no value
Yeah.
with a credit card or a car, it's
Yeah.
devaluing itself,
Correct.
right? Where your property or your
Build
home
equity.
is building equity. Again, we don't.
It's all about educating them,
Right.
showing them on paper, showing them what can happen to their lives in the next 2 years, and that's really gonna help them understand.
You got a question?
No, I was about to say that I think people, and in general, this happens in cars too, when you go buy it, people feel comfortable with the certain payment they have to do, and they don't really care much about the interest, or if, you see it when they hit it to you on the closing, and you see that you're paying double the money, but then that's too late there. But,
Right.
you're paying anyway, let's say 22, 25 a month, and you can afford it, then, you'll be fine. You have to live somewhere, so you're gonna pay either the rent or you
Exactly.
pay the mortgage.
Yep.
You know what's
So-
crazy is that I've seen people live in $150,000 houses and drive around in $80,000 cars. It's like, something's not right. You're driving around a Range Rover and you're living in a house that's about to fall down.
Personally attacked.
Well, you definitely ain't living in that house. So, but good, that's a great comment, right? Because people don't understand, they don't perceive, right, what you can, building equity passively, right, by paying yourself, right, mortgage, or paying yourself rent, is something that people don't look at it like that, right? They rather say, oh, you know what, I'm okay, it doesn't matter, my rent is only $2,000, I'm okay. But that doesn't make sense, right? Because the thing is, if Christina would have bought a house in 2011, right? Let's call it 2012, 10 years ago, right? She could have bought a house for $250,000 in Palmetto Bay, for example, right? Which is a good price back then, right? Which,
Cheaper, but yeah.
right. So let's just say it was $250 in Palmetto Bay. Call it 400, whatever number you want to call it. But now, 10 years later, she's probably doubled that price minimum, right? So she's probably gone 3 times as much, right? But let's just call it double to make it sound easy, right? So let's say it goes from 400 to 800. But she bought a 800, she bought a Range Rover, or she bought a Lamborghini, or she bought a Porsche, or she bought even a Honda Accord, because I've seen Honda Accords coming in at $600 car payments a month, right? Now that car has devalued itself, which has changed a little bit, because now you can sell your used car for 15 grand when you couldn't get $1 for it, right?
Who's a homeowner here?
Raise your hands high.
A few.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're a homeowner, you already have a story to tell, meaning when you bought your house, take that number, do comparables to see what you would sell it for now, and do the monthly payments of what you paid over those years. I did this exercise when I actually sold my house now in October. So I bought my house 2016 and I sold it 2020. So I lived in it for 4 years. I did the math. I ended up paying all those years of rent. I got it back. So for me and the work that I ended up doing in the house, I pretty much lived for free for those 4 years is what it turned out to be. So when I did the math, I realized, you know what, this house gave me shelter, did everything for me, and I did it for free. So when we start to, you as homeowners, the ones that are homeowners.
Did you get any equity out of it as well on top of it? Let's say, like, even when you did the rents?
No, I think I did it just like I kind of cleared out. Just fine.
But it broke even, though.
I broke even. I was
versus,
like living
versus you paying rent for.
4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was for free.
Right.
So you as a homeowner will all have different stories, right? Because everybody bought at different times, you have different mortgages, and go through that, do that activity. And this is a story you can share now with your clients. This is what I bought at this time. If I were to sell right now, this is what I'm gonna make or what I paid off. In a rental, if we say, right now all my tenants here, how much have you been paying year over year, right? And I'm sorry to say, but you're not gonna get that back. So these are stories, and when you have clients and stories that happen for them, right? I've had people that bought during COVID and they were really scared, and now 2 years later, I mean, the equity that they've gained, they're so grateful that they did that, right? So these are stories that I share with the people that are feeling a little bit hesitant, and when I share it, they're like, okay, it's relatable, and yes, I can do it, right? So just always figure out ways, either with your own story, with someone else's story, you could use my story, and then start to build on that and have those conversations with your people. That's, I think, what's really helped me have buyers understand the importance of buying. That is comparing, if you're a first time home buyer, there is no reason that renting is gonna be better off than buying, because even if it's temporary, live in it for a year and you can sell it, you can rent it, there's so many opportunities. And I wanna share one more thing that I hear often that I think might help people. One of the most common objections that I hear from buyers, they say, I don't know what's gonna happen in the market, and God forbid there was a crash, I lost my job. And that's a great, I understand that concern, right? That is a concern. And yet, I'll use Diana. Diana, so you're scared that if you were to lose your job, you don't know what's gonna happen. So right now, if you were to lose your job, what is that landlord gonna do? They need their money.
Yeah.
They don't care if you lost your job.
Yeah.
They don't care about the market, right? They have their own things to deal with. So what's gonna happen?
I get kicked out.
Okay, you're gonna be evicted. And guess what? You don't have a job now. You have no home now. Okay? So really, where are you if you were renting?
No, under
Okay.
a bridge.
So let's say now you buy a house and God forbid you lose your job. What's gonna happen?
I will make some payments, it'll be bad for my credit, but I'll still have a roof over my head.
You have a roof over your head, right? Let's say they're gonna foreclose on you. It's sad, I get it, right? And yet, it's gonna take a lot longer for you than to get evicted. You can rent it out, get some cash back. You can sell it if there is equity. There's possibly options for a short sale. You have so many more options and more time. So to be honest, between renting and buying, which one is a safer option,
Bye.
right? Now you make them realize, oh shit, if I were to lose my job right now, I could be evicted and I have nothing. If I were to lose my job when I'm a homeowner, yes, it sucks, and yet there's options. We're gonna help you through that. We have some sort of asset to hold us, right? So that's a really common objection that I always handle, and it really helps people put it into perspective. Sorry, I took over your whole class. I'll be quiet.
That was good. This is what we're talking about. So let me ask you guys a question, right? Because again, you guys are all real estate professionals, and with everything that Christina just said is exactly why we're having this conversation, right? So the reason why she's up here is because I want that kind of input, right? I don't want you guys listening from the lending side. I want to hear from the real estate side as well, because that's what you guys do on a daily basis. So you have to learn how to be able to handle, I don't call them objections, but the situations, right? So I don't use the word objections, I use situations, right? So somebody's situation changes with the other person's situations. So there's not an objection in the way. What we need to know is, how do we get that situation to make you understand that this is still the opportunity for you to still buy your home, right? And this is why the new normal is important, because things are not going to go down, guys. So the reason why they're not is not because the banks like, Goldman Sachs or Bank of America or Chase is saying, you know what, let's raise interest rates because we want to make more money. They're actually pushing for it because they are wanting to make more money, because they lasted 2 years during the pandemic when people were in forbearance that they were not there, right? So they couldn't charge money because they were in forbearance, right? So with that being said, you guys have to understand that it's the federal government that's doing this. And the reason why they're doing this is because they need to stop the bleeding from inflation. We cannot go into a recession, because if we go into a recession, we're on the border of a recession, right? Why are we on the border of a recession? Christina probably says, she sides, so she doesn't agree. But we're on the border of a recession, guys. It's got nothing to do with me or anybody else. If you listen to the experts, we're there. Gas prices at $5, right? Credit cards will be at 29%. They're not gonna be at $19.99 like you said. They're gonna be 29.99 as of this week, basically, right? So you're gonna get a letter in the mail from your Visa, MasterCard, your Discover card, saying your new interest rates will be X.
I think someone already told me that their credit cards went up significantly.
Yeah.
Someone was talking.
So everybody's gonna go up, probably 29%, right? Because it's based off the interest rates, right? So if they gotta pay more interest to cover your interest, they gotta make it. So those 9.99 and the 0.5s, those days are over, right? So now, even let's say we go at 19.99%. That's compounded daily, guys, which is a different animal, right? So we don't, listen, we're gonna sell houses no matter what. People have to live somewhere, right?
Yep.
They have to either rent or they have to buy, right? Because families, or sell, right? Because families don't disappear, right? And you have to take care of your family. So it's a home, right? Not a house. So when you sell your clients, it's not a house, it's a home. So when we're talking about a home, it's very important for people to understand that interest rates really don't matter, right? Because if you're paying 7.99% for a car, right? Right now, in the pandemic, it was 0% financing on cars, right? But the prices have tripled, right? The prices have gone bananas, right? So you can buy a Tesla before for what? Bashi, what can you buy an EV car for before?
An EV car?
Like an electrical vehicle. How much can you buy it for before? Like 50 grand, 60 grand?
Maybe, yeah. But
And
it's
now?
up- It's up to date, because
How
I
much?
bought my Porsche at 93, and the dealer called me,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to buy back your car. I said, okay, take
How
it
much?
for 125.
You see that?
But they didn't want my price, they wanted their price.
Right,
Still, they want to pay higher, even though it's over 5,000 miles now.
right. And because there's basically no inventory, number
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Inventory.
But
There
basic
is no chips in
Teslas,
the market.
basic Teslas were like 37.
And how much are they now?
No, right now
The
60,
50s, right?
At least
55,
55,
60, something.
So, guys, everything is relative, and that's what we're trying to point out to you guys. And this all goes back to our real estate market, right? Because this is what we're really worried about. This is our profession, right? So, if cars can go up, if gas can go up, if food prices can go up at a ridiculous price, right? Like you go buy a pack of eggs now, it's like $8, right? Before it used to be $3.50 for $4, whatever it was before, right? It's almost double. Have you seen anything in the market that, I mean, you got your family, so when you go shopping, you see something that stands out to you in price? That's crazy.
Tomatoes.
Eggs,
I don't look at- I don't look at prices.
You look at prices.
meat,
I need to buy it, so I.
restaurants.
everything is up.
Yeah, Uber Eats. That's
Even the
expensive.
fish that's not.
Yeah. You know, I went to take my daughter, and we went out to lunch with my grandson, and, you know, usually it's $45-50, right?
Yeah.
She had like my mahi, I had a sandwich, and the baby didn't get anything but like water, and we gave him like chicken nuggets, right, little bits. $55. I'm like, what is going on, right? We didn't have any alcohol, nothing, just
Yeah.
water, and, you know, the baby had a juice, that was it. So, like you said, David, the prices are going up. So again, the new normal is gonna be that, guys. Now, is it normal for the prices to drop back down all of a sudden? No, right? Will they go back down gradually? Probably, right? If the numbers stay the same, right? But history shows that it's not going to go down, right? Mari, what do you say? Well, you were in the air travel industry for how many? 20 years?
30.
30 years. Before you can get on a plane with American Airlines for how much? Go to
For nothing, to like $200 a round trip.
right, and now how much is it going around trip?
It's really expensive.
Like $500-600, right?
Or
So more, right? So and then they don't have pilots to fly you, so they cancel the flight. And then they don't give you a hotel, right? So it's kind of crazy. So the new normal, guys, in the real estate business is this, right? I think the FHA, when people used to tell you that it's no, you only want cash, right? Explain what Christina said. That's a great option for you guys to get them that, right? They're gonna get that check in the bank, right? That day of the closing, right? Whether it's $100 in cash or it's all cash because it's going into their account as cash, not going into as cryptocurrencies, right? And it's not going there in Dominican pesos, right? It's going there in American dollars, right? So it's all the same. So you have to make
Unless you
sure.
work with Dario. I get that heaty money.
Dario, what kind of money you use with your clients? That's interesting.
Money they sweat for.
So, guys, that's the new normal in that. So, the other question I got for you guys is this. Are you seeing a lot of properties coming back on the market?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay. And why do you think that is?
they're dropping prices.
Why do you think they're dropping prices?
They are desperate.
But why are they coming back
Not
on the market?
qualified buyers, maybe? Buyers
Why are
that-
they qualifying
The
anymore?
interest is for
Right, and that's what we're gonna get into right now real quick. So, let's go show you something. Take notes on this because this is important, right? So, we're not done, Chris, so don't go nowhere. So, Carlito, you're on the call. Good to see you, brother. So let's look at this. So let's say What's up, my brother? How you doing? So at 2.5%, which is what's going on in the pandemic, right? This is a conventional loan, right? Conventional, primary, refinance cash out doesn't matter, right? The numbers don't change, right? So let's say that they were getting a 2.5 rate in the pandemic, right? Now, at 450,000, which Christine and I kind of both agreed was the average sales price in the market, and might keep going up, right? So, 5% down payment, right? With a $22,000 down payment as far as dollars concerned, and the loan amount is gonna be $427,500. So now when we scroll down, that payment is going to be $1689.14, right? Write this down because you're gonna see the difference in what you guys gotta look at, right? So that's the monthly payment on your principal and interest. Taxes and insurance, guys, you guys all know how to do tax and insurance. If you don't, raise your hand, we'll go over it real quick. You guys all know? Okay, well, we'll show you later. You guys know? So taxes. So every single property has a property value, right? Either they put it on the MLS, or you can go, it's public record. You can go to Christina's house, you can find it, right? If you knew the address. You can go 123 Main Street, right? And then it'll pop up with whoever's name is on there. It could be Diana, it could be yours, Henry, it could be Dadio's, right? Whatever it is, it's all public record, guys. Unless you're in the Fed. Some people say, oh, I can't find this person. There's three reasons why. Number one, they're probably working for the federal government. Number two, they're a police officer.
Diana found one like that.
Yeah.
Right? Or number three, they're in the judicial system, like a judge or a big time lawyer, that they block them out because they don't want people to find them because
Yeah.
of public record. Right?
Yeah, because if they look for them and then.
Yeah, God forbid, right? So 1689.14. The reason why we're doing this exercise, I want to show you something real quick. So now we're gonna change that interest rate to what it was basically in December. I closed a bunch of 3.25% interest rate, right? Still fixed 30 years, right? Now what's the payment? $1860. What did we just do? We went up almost $200, right? Just by going up from 2.5 to 3.25, right? So,
now,
huh?
yeah, I'm curious to see 6.5.
Oh, wait, we're gonna go a little bit lower. So I remember then, you guys wrote that down? So now, because I get people saying to me, oh my God, how's it? Hey, listen, it is what it is. So then we go to 4.25.
What interest rate is this one again?
That one was 3.5.
That one was 3.25. The last one you
You got
showed.
3.25, no, was it 3.25?
Yeah.
Right, let's go back.
Three and a
Let's go
quarter.
back. Hold on.
3 and a quarter.
Maybe I put it- So let's go point 3.25 it was? Because that's what we were doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
1860. 3.25, which is what we were closing loans at the end of December, beginning of January, right? So now all of a sudden in February, the thing popped to like 4.25, which is what Christina was saying, right? Let's call it 4.5 on the high end, right? Well, again, we're all talking about just the interest rates to show you what the payments would be like, right? That's why we're doing this exercise. So now 4.5, right, guys? You got this one now? And then we're at 2166. Can anybody tell me what the difference was between 2.5 to the 4.25? What was the difference in payment? Hopefully you guys are writing this down so you guys can see it, right? What's the difference in payment? How much?
Like 500?
No, it was 2.
489.
What was there? It was 1689, I think it was, right?
476.
476.
476, right? That's just between December, or basically from like maybe November of last year
Yeah, I'll go with that.
till probably February or March. So now, let's jump to last month. Let's go to 5.5, which is basically where we were at, right? So let's look at a 5%. Now we're at 24.27. Now, Christine. I know.
So does everybody know what that means in regards to what's gonna happen to their purchasing power?
Diminished,
Why?
because now they have to pay more to acquire a house, and they're gonna take into account other debts, so therefore the debt to income ratio is gonna be higher in general.
Their debt ratio, right? So their debt ratio is gonna be what it is, right? The max that they can pay monthly for that lender. Doesn't matter the purchase price, because at the end of the day, you see interest rate, taxes, insurance, it all goes into that monthly payment. So now, when we are increasing because of interest rate, it reduces that ability to do it from the actual purchase price, because now it's doing it from the interest rate. At the end of the day, that monthly doesn't matter where it's taken from. So what's happening is the purchase price has to go lower so that it can make up for that interest rate.
So guys, now you understand now, so let's look at David, I know you're looking at the numbers, so what was it that it went to from the 4.25 to 5.5? What did it go for? How much did they increase?
737.
Oh, that's from the beginning to
From
the
the
end.
beginning,
from the
let's just
beginning.
go from four, let's just do like from 4.25 to 5.5. What did it go to, guys? Let's look at the last one, that way it makes it easier for you guys to understand what's going on.
261.
261.
Okay, and again, it goes back to what Isabel and what Christina said, the market now, right? Why a lot of properties coming back on market. So if I approve David in February or March, right, for 350, just giving you a round number, right, 350. And David comes back and says, I'm ready to buy, and Manuela comes and says, you know what, we got a contract. Then I go punch in the numbers. David in April or March was probably at 3.25, right? Now he's at 5.5. Now he's really gonna be at 6, which will show you the new numbers. So guess what? Now David doesn't qualify. Then he goes to another person, and another person says, yeah, you're good, don't worry about it, we're good, we'll figure it out. Then he goes in, and then they come back to David like a week before the closing, and they said to David, you gotta come up with $13,694 to drop the rate from 5.5, which they call a discount point, right? Well, how does David have that? He only had $28,000 in the bank, and he needed 26 to close, right? So that's why it's important for you guys to understand what's going on. So when you get the paperwork, when you're talking to a lender, whether it's Miami Mortgage or anybody else, right? Or you're doing listings, that's the best one, right? You gotta be able to understand when you look at the listings. Okay, let's say something.
I wanna share a story actually.
Okay.
If you're, yeah.
Let me just finish and then you can go. When you look at a listing, you're a listing agent, right? And you have this, they send you the DU. And you see that the interest rate's not normal, right? Like I get a DU from Christina and it says to me, I'm a listing agent, and it says that it's 4.25. I know that that's not right. Because there is no 4.25 in the marketplace. There is no 5. There is no, listen, there is down, the lowest you can go down is to like 3.99. And I looked at it the other day with David, I think it was like $29,000 I had to pay to get the rate, right? To get down to 4%. You can buy it, but who's gonna buy $29,000 to get a difference of 6% versus 3.99, right? So that's why some of these houses are coming back on the market. The other thing is what we discussed before, that some of the listing agents were a little bit aggressive because they want their sellers, right, to be able to say, hey, you're doing an amazing job, and they're listing the price a little bit above price. And either, like Christina said, they're gonna either do a price reduction later on, or they're gonna have a problem when they go to closing because they probably won't appraise, or they won't be able to close it. So what's your story, Chris, on that?
If you're taking on a listing, and so one of my agents took a listing, they chose an offer that was 30,000 over asking. We did see a DU and all that good stuff. And within the inspection period, the buyer's agent said, because of interest and the taxes and insurance, the lender said that we actually only qualify for 380 on this house. So my agent believed it, and they were kind of going back and forth with the seller because she wanted to decide whether to continue with that deal or not, because now the terms are not in agreement. And because I like to fight, it was a lot of back and forth. So because
No, Chris, you don't have it. But you know what? That's actually a good trait. You guys may laugh about it, but it's a good trait. And I'm cutting her off because I want you guys to understand this. You need to, she's calling it fight. I'm gonna change the word.
sure.
Negotiations,
Yeah.
right? She calls it a fight, which is really what negotiations is in a nice word.
Okay, so I was
Negotiating.
negotiating heavily, and because I didn't want my agent's deal to go down just because of lack of knowledge with the lender. So I pretty much said we're canceling, right? In the emails back and forth with that agent. And the agent came back and said, we actually worked it out with the lender, we're gonna be able to do the 400,000. So I told my agent, you need to call that lender, because how is it that they don't qualify and all of a sudden they qualify? She called the lender, and the lender said, oh, they have qualified for way more. they're good. So there was no problem. So people are using this story to now protect their buyers. They're putting over asking a lot, and then they're giving a sob story to pretend. In some situations, obviously some they're not qualifying, but always call the lenders.
Right.
Always say, where are we? Do we qualify? What's the situation? Get that information, because it could be completely different than what that agent is saying. At the end of the day, we're just real estate agents. We are not the lender, so we cannot talk like that for the client. So get it directly from that lender, because really, that's $20,000 for that seller that we would have lost by agreeing to that.
So with the new normal, let's do this, right? As a listing agent / buyer's agent, right? Again, I'm very upfront with you guys and with the clients, right? Other people that I know in the industry, they are hoping that the rates will go down, right? So one of the great questions you can ask a lender is, are they buying down points? Is this gonna be locked within the next, within the next 24 to 48 hours, right? And can you send me the lock to make sure that it is already locked within the next 24 to 48 hours, or else we'll cancel the contract? You see what I'm saying? Now they have to send you the lock. So you got two things that most people don't ever ask the lender for, right? So you're asking them, is this a buy down situation? Or is it a regular loan, right? Right? It doesn't have to do anything. Or if you're gonna lock it, once we go into contract, once they get sign the disclosures, we can lock the rate the same day. So if I'm a good lender, I can actually go, Christina brings me a contract, Miami Mortgage is what we usually do, we register the loan within the first 24 hours, right? So after the 24 hours is over, we then can send out disclosures, once it's registered with the government. No matter what the loan is, guys, even if it's non-qualified mortgages, non-QM, bank statements, debt service loans, they all have to be registered with the government. That's to protect the clients, right, and to protect the industry, to make sure that nobody's doing anything illegal or doing stuff that's underhanded. So the government has people reviewing these things to make sure that there's nothing dropped. Are there gonna be some drop balls? Yes. But 99% of the time, people are gonna review this thing, make sure that nobody's messing around. That's why, in the new normal, guy, we're not going to crash, because it's not a financial thing. So now, in the old days, and I talked to Pedro about this and Christina, in the old days, people were qualifying just on the fact that you had a job. Now, you're qualifying on, you have to have a 700 credit score, you have to have at least 5% and show it in the bank, right? Or 10, and you have to make sure that they're gonna verify employment to make sure that you're still working there. So it's not like before I said, you know what, you got a blood, yeah, you're breathing, let's go, here's a $500,000 loan. Those days are over. So the financial industry is not what's gonna bring this market down, it's just inflation is bringing
They're
it down.
trying to bring down the power of the purchasing.
Right, because they don't want people spending money that's not necessary. Now, they know they're hurting mortgages,
Yeah.
but the reason what they're doing in mortgages mostly is because of this, guys. It's very important for you to understand. Christina brought up a great point. People are putting $20, $30, $40, $50,000 above asking price. It's not normal, right? Because if you're buying a house for 450s, which we got up there, right? And you're offering $25,000 above asking price. You've already given 5%, that's basically your down payment. Right? You're basically putting down 10%, but only getting 5% equity. So if that house, for whatever the reason, stays, which the housing market was usually, 3 to 5% a year?
4 is average.
4 is average on an increase, which is amazing, right? If you get any index that tells you you're gonna get 4% on 100,000, I'm in the stock market, right? If you got a stock that goes up 4% a year, and you leave your money there for 20 years, which is what you're doing with your house, right? You're golden. Right? You're ready, you're set, go, right? But people don't perceive that. So you have to explain that to them, that this is your nest egg. This is your Tesla. This is your, Apple investment that you're doing in the stock market. But guess what? This is your home, you won't have to pay capital gains on it, right? Versus 40% capital gains in the, stock market. So if you go sell Tesla, like Elon Musk just had to pay a huge amount of money, right? Because he had to cap in on some stuff that he did on some margin calls and some option calls as well. The guy made $78 billion. Well, he had to pay back like $34 billion of that money because those are capital gains. And he can't get away with it because it's in black and white. With real estate, when Christina sold her house last year in 2021 in October, and she looked at it like she was just saving on the rent, but in reality, she made whatever, 40, 50, 60, 100,000. That she used for the down payment of the next property, right? And now she's got $100,000 in equity in the next property, and she is basically on easy street for the next deal. So that's what
You
you guys
start to build wealth like that.
Exactly. And that's how you build wealth, right? You don't build wealth by investing sometimes, right? You just build wealth by saving on things that you do on a daily basis. Make sense? Okay. So,
Any questions?
yeah, please, any questions important? Lance? No, we good? Okay. So now let's look at 6.375, which is basically, Isabel, the normal. So
Don't
Isabel-
tell me about it.
Isabel was 2.5, 6.375 is the new normal, right?
I was thinking about her last night with that.
I've been
You
stressing.
crazy, it's crazy how you never know what's coming.
Yep.
We do not have a magic ball, guys.
And yet the property has increased in value.
Correct, so that's the beautiful thing right now.
Yeah.
And yet I was thinking about you, I was like, 6 months ago, she was at a different interest rate.
2.75,
And how life has
right?
changed in 6 months. You come back in to see your lender, and the news you get, I'm sure I was definitely thinking about that.
It's crazy. So we're gonna go to 6.35 and we're clicking now, right? So your payment now is 2667. So now, I don't need to look at the numbers because I know already that at 2.5, that payment was 1689.14, right? If I remember correctly.
1689.
You just went up $1,000, guys. How many people can afford to go up $1,000 a month in payment? That means that you just gave away you just gave away $360,000 if you multiply it, right, monthly, $1,000 a month times 360 payments.
What's the purchasing power that you lose?
Yeah.
What's the purchasing power that you lose?
Or you lose about, I think it's 10 to 12% from there.
No, more. No, I'm saying like, okay, if let's say they qualified for $350,000 loan,
Oh.
what do they qualify for now?
So let's say,
Cause is it still the $50 for every 10,000?
right,
Okay, so what's
so now you're looking at almost, so it's 20 times, right?
that? Is it 20 times?
Yeah, 20 times 5 is 1,000, right?
Okay, so
So
20
20
times 10,000? So
Right.
200,000.
Mhm.
Holy. So that means that, wow.
So let's look at, since you brought that up, right? Let's put this down here, right? So 450, right?
So change the purchase price now to keep going down until it hits 1,600 again, please.
Good luck. I'm gonna drop it right off the bat. I know it's gonna be 200, right? Right around the number, right?
250,000?
So it's gonna go to 250.
One more.
What? Alright. Alright, so 250, right? Let's put the same 5% down payment and keep everything normal. And let's go back down to the 2.5, right?
No, leave it, and I just wanna see what the payment is right now.
Oh, okay, you gonna drop it?
Yeah.
There you go, 1481. So you're basically gonna go to about 300.
Yeah, let's say 300,000, I'm just
Like
curious.
295, I think is the number. Let's go
So you
295.
lost 150,000?
Let's call it 290 and just, I think you're gonna be right around that $1,600 mark.
Yep, 1731.
Right?
So you just
you're
lost the
basically
purchasing power of 150,000.
a little bit more, right? Cause you're
Yeah.
probably looking at more 275, right? Looking more 275 depending on taxes. So let's do it. So let's make sure. What was the number? 1689, right? Let's get that number to 1689. We got a little bit of time. Let's go 280. Let's see what the number comes in at 280. I gotta change this back because that's gonna make a difference. We have to keep the numbers the same. There you go. So it's probably gonna be around 284, 285 is the number. So you just lost $170,000 in purchasing power. So the person that was qualified for 450, right, Mitch, can now go to 280, right? That's basically what we had. A person at 400, they dropped down to about 275, right? Same thing with your Erica, the same deal, same kind of thing. So
It's all a numbers game.
So let's go back now, which is where they're saying that we're gonna go to, right? And guys, this exercise is for you guys to understand the numbers, right? It's not to scare you guys and say, "Oh my God, we're gonna die." I think it's just the opposite, right? I think it's just the opposite. If you really look at this thing in the positive light, right? I think it's gonna stabilize the market, which is what we need. Right, so we had the 6.375. Look, so I was talking to Vimani before you guys got here, right? And the thing that Vimani said to me was, where do you think it's gonna go to? So Vashi, what do you think interest rates are gonna be at in September? Let's just call September 15th. Where do you think it's gonna be at? Just a guess, because we don't know. So just what you think is going on.
Above 7.
Give me a number, like 7 what?
7.2.
7.25, okay. Lourdes, what are you thinking?
8.
8? What are you thinking, Henry?
7.5.
7.
7.5.
7.5. Diana? Vimani? So, Dana? Anybody? 7?
Around 7.
All right, so we got 7 to 7.5. What do you think, Chris? 6.9? So let's call it 7, right? So let's call 7.25, because it's a consensus of 7.5 to 7, right? Let's just call 7.25. I just want to show you guys what the new normal is going to be. So 7.25. You guys ready?
No.
29.16.
What was the previous one?
26.
26.67. So this is how you create that urgency now.
Right, and that's what's happening in the marketplace.
Just exactly what people are doing.
So I got people calling me that they were like, "Oh, I'm gonna wait till the houses drop."
Now?
So guys, it's all relative. Like Christina said, it's a numbers game, right? So you take a person that was buying 450,000. Now she qualifies for 275. Is there anything in the marketplace for 275 right now? Right? You know why? Because number one, sellers are still in denial. Right? They're going to be in denial for a minute. Right? The listing agents are going to be in denial because they were in control for how long now? How long were they in control, Christina?
Well, it's, more. 2 years.
2 years in control, right? So I got a question for you guys. And please answer the question. How many of you guys think, and please answer by raising your hand and saying something. How many of you guys think that this market is going to crash down from 450, which is the average price that we're saying right now? And tell me what the price is, or do you think is what the number is gonna be? And how do you think it's gonna affect real estate? Mr. Lance, why don't we start with you? Speak loud because we're recording.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a crazy drop. I think there's a lot of people that are expecting like rates to go up and then prices to go down right away. I think a lot of people are gonna be shocked that like rates are gonna go up and prices are just gonna keep going up.
Do you think prices are gonna go up?
I think prices will still go up for another
6 months?
6 months, 8 months, maybe a year before we start to see anything change. I mean, rates have gone up, but like 2 years ago, right, we were seeing 10, 15 offers on a house where rates were at 2.5%, 3%. Rates are at 6 right now. We're still seeing 4, 5, 6 offers. We're still getting things under contract above ask, above appraisal. So there's still buyers that are still super strong that are gonna keep the market going. So even with rates getting to 7, 7.5, 8%, I still think it'll be pushing strong for another year or so. So all these buyers that are holding off, waiting for prices to go down, it's just gonna get that much more expensive. And we just saw the rates go up. I had a buyer in 2019, like December 2019, right before the pandemic. And she bought a condo with 35% down and she got a 6.9% interest rate. And 2019, and at the time it was ecstatic that she was able to get a loan, a rate that low. And we have buyers now at 6, so like, oh damn, shit is crazy. It's like, yeah,
It's all perspective.
yeah. If you're comparing it to last year for sure, but if you're comparing it to the previous normal, you know,
I'm
we're
gonna
right
show
back
you
at where
something.
we were at. Yeah.
So that's a great comment. So Lance thinks it's gonna go up.
And Lance is very smart, by the way, he's an amazing educator, so definitely listen to
He's a
him.
man, he's a man.
So listen to this real quick, right? So Lance thinks it's gonna go up. The prices of the homes, right? Interest rates are gonna go up, prices are gonna go up. Listen, he made a comment that you guys should always remember. I told the guys this the other day. Perception is what? People's reality, right? It doesn't matter that the reason why the interest rates dropped to 2.5 was because the world was going to end. We didn't have a vaccine. Almost 2 million people died. I was in the hospital for 8 days, almost croaked, right? I was almost done, right? I lost like 62 pounds, and I gained it all back and some.
That's not what you talk
All
about.
the way to Santo Domingo.
Right? So
Yes,
I was on COVID deathbed, right? I couldn't breathe for almost and I remember Chris sending me a message and calling me because we were closing her house, and I couldn't talk. I couldn't catch my breath, right?
Yeah,
So
we had a conversation.
it was bad, right? So the crazy thing is this, guys. That's why the interest rates dropped. It wasn't because the economy was bad. So I bought my first house at 11.91% interest rate in 1995. Right? 1994. So, if the interest rates, if we do not challenge inflation, because we got another 2 minutes, if we do not challenge inflation, right? And I want to ask you guys something. I want somebody else to make a comment, but I'm going to change some numbers. If we do not challenge inflation, and recession does set in, then that's going to hurt everybody in this room, right? That's what they're trying to avoid. David, what do you think is going to happen and why? I know you're out there really aggressively looking right now, real quick, for people. What do you think is happening? Because I know you're being challenged on that end as far as 22 offers coming in, and you're putting an offer in every other day for clients.
Well, yeah, like Lance said, there's a lot of buyers, strong buyers right now offering over asking price, over appraisal, and like my client, she wants to get into a contract, she can't get in, she's offering, for example, $15,000 over asking price. She gets bid by other offers, like $30,000, $40. She can compete with that, so I think, another year or so, price is still gonna continue to increase.
Stabilize? Okay,
Yeah.
that's a great point. So you guys, I got 2 statistics for you, right? And number 1 statistic is this. Credit card debt is the highest it's ever been in the last 50 years. It's at $841 billion. They're expecting by August 1st to be at $1 trillion credit card debt, right? And it'll go to $1 trillion just because they're gonna raise the rate from 9.99 to 19.99. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something because you know this. What's the average of interest rates in the?
That's it. You read my mind because that's what I was getting at, right? So, great question. So historically, interest rates have been anywhere between 6 to 8% on average. 6 to 8, right? But in the 70s, they were in the 20s. 20s. In the 80s, they were in the upper teens, right? I don't know, you guys are all young, so you guys don't know that, right? But you can Google this stuff too, right? It's real simple. They were in the upper teens. In the early 90s, paid 11.91. My parents, in the mid 80s, bought a property for 18.75%.
Are people doing ARMs?
Yes. So I don't want to. So before we go, I wanted to show you something real quick. So that's a great point. What's happening also, I'm doing a lot of different loans right now. So people are doing interest-only loans for 7 years, which means that you're not paying any principal, right? But your interest rate is 5% or 6% or 7%, but you're only paying interest. So that means you're not paying any principal towards the house. So that means that you're basically paying a third less, let's say like $400 or $500 less a month than you would be getting if you were paying a conventional loan without that.
So you can maintain that purchasing power.
Right. So that way you can come in and come back at that level, so you can maintain that purchasing power at around, instead of 450, it'd probably be around 380, 375 instead of 270. Right? That'll make a big difference. So you're saving yourself $400 or $500, so your half of it come back. So you split it, right? So you'd probably be around 380. So look at being out of the box. Think out the box, right? So we're gonna think outside the box by doing this. You're gonna either do a 5-year ARM. So ARM is just basically saying that it's interest only. It's adjustable rate mortgage is what an ARM means, right? So an adjustable rate mortgage means that it'll adjust. If you do a 5-year ARM, after the 5th year, it'll adjust 1% or whatever the number that they agree with you on, right? For that year, right? After that, every year, right, is gonna adjust. So the first year, it'll adjust 1%. Second year, it'll adjust 1%. Third year, maybe 0.75%. So it's gonna cap, right? Let's say, so they do a 5-1 ARM. So they're gonna do every year, they're gonna go up 1% for 3 years. Then it caps at a certain number, like 8%, for example, right? And then the 5th year, then the loan is done. So they either have to refinance it or go somewhere else, right? That's how you got caught in 2008 and 9. A lot of people did a lot of ARMs, and then when the rates adjusted, they were up instead of down. So anybody that did an ARM 2 years ago is in trouble right now, because the rates were at 3, maybe they got a 1.99, right? They got a 1.99 rate. Now, when the rate adjusts, it's gonna go up that 1%, or that 0.75%. So your payment is still low because you're only paying interest. But then when the rates come back and now they're at 8.25%, now you get culture shock. Now your mortgage payment goes from, let's say, $1,688 to $2,956.
Yet you still have that asset to play around with different options. So yes, and yes.
So you guys can do a 7-1 ARM, which is safer, or you could do a 10-1 ARM. Again, you only pay an interest, so you're still building equity on the back end. We're paying lower interest payment, right? Paying a lower payment, not an interest payment. Making a lower payment monthly.
People are going to be doing more ARMs.
Well, right now, so refinancing is down 75%. ARMs are up 75%.
There you go.
So
The 7-year ARM, does it still have the 3 years, or do they give you more years on the fixed period before it starts adjusting?
it starts adjusting after the first year.
So it starts adjusting no matter what, it's just that.
Right, it's just the period of time when it stops adjusting, right? And then it becomes a balloon, right? Because you can do a 3, which most people don't do because it's too short. You can do a 5, 7, or a 10. So most people are going 7 because it's in the middle, right? So it adjusts every year, right? And it adjusts downward too, guys. So let's say you got an interest rate of 7%, because that's the number that they gave you at that time. But the interest rates go down, they adjust backwards as well, right? They just don't adjust up. They come off, they call this SOFR, right? So it's come off the SOFR rates, right? So it's an index in the market that tells you what the rates are going up or down for that, right? That's the adjustable arm rates situation. Yes.
Is there a particular type of buyer that you tend to see that does the arms more than another?
Yeah, people are a little bit, no disrespect to anybody, a little bit more educated financially, right? Because if they go the other way, it's not really that good, right? So if you go the other route, most people that are very conservative are very concerned about the rates adjusting to when they look at the number at the end of the 7 years, right? They flip out, because at the end of the 7 years, you'll be paying $2,900 versus paying the $1,600 now. And it's gonna adjust every year, it's gonna go up a little bit, right? So it's gonna go from $1,600 to $1,800, then $1,800 to $2,000, $2,000 to $2,300, so on and so forth until you get to your number. Or it could just stay the same or drop a little bit. But that's what scares people, is the fact that they don't want variable rates because they wanna make sure that it's the same payment all the time, right?
What is the cap on, right now, what's the cap, 2%?
It depends on which deal you get, right?
Okay.
So some deals are like that, and I know we gotta go, Christina's got another class, and then there's food in the back I want you guys to eat while Christina is teaching. There's great food. Or you can eat afterwards. So look, at 8.75, guys, look at this crazy number, right?
Sorry, my face shows.
You can't hide your emotions. So $3,363, guys. Is if we go to what I'm thinking is gonna happen in December, because 3363, 14. So that went up how much? $1,700 for the 2.5 monthly payment.
Are you approved lender for that Hometown Heroes thing, by the way?
No.
I've been wanting to ask you that.
No, so the Hometown Heroes, great question, Christina. The Hometown Heroes program, Miami Mortgage Group is not part of it. It was done through US Bank or Wells Fargo. And I have not heard great things about it since it started. It was a great thing on June 1st. Everybody was going crazy about it, but I think a few things have gone sideways with the registrations and stuff like that. It's a great program for your clients, right? You have to be a direct lender and be approved by the state to approve this program. I have to lend the money out for 90 days, and I'm definitely not gonna take that chance. Somebody defaults on me, then I got that note in my pocket for the next 10 years, right, until I foreclose.
Is there a way that we can find the lender,
Go to Wells Fargo, US Bank, or the direct lenders for the state.
oh, really?
Yeah, US Bank and Wells Fargo, right? And there's other local lenders. I think there's a couple that are local that are doing it as well. But I know that this thing was going crazy, and I got a couple of friends of mine that are doing it. And I've never, listen, it's a great program. There's 50 different occupations in there, so if you can get your clients to sign up and get in there, do it, right? But there's a little bit of red tape right now going on that's causing the thing to go a little slower than what they expected. Right? What they're doing basically, guys, is giving back 5% on a second loan for Hometown Heroes. So they're giving you the initial down payment on a conventional loan, right? For 5% down, up to $647,000. So then if you stay
They
there.
think that's not the county though.
Well, you're in Miami, right? So let's say that if you go up to Orlando, it's gonna be a lot less.
Yeah, there's
I read
agents
last
here that
night
like to
because the
deal
board
with.
was offering the class today,
Uh-huh.
and the last registration was assigned, I was gonna take it, but I had this. And they said that the cap for Miami-Dade was 5% up to $25,000.
Yes, which is $650,000. So that's the down payment, and then if you stay in the house for more than 5 years, it's forgivable,
Yeah.
right? But if you don't, then you have to pay it back.
Oh, I thought you had to pay it back no matter what, when you.
I think it's forgivable after 5 or 10 years is what I heard. Again, there's so
Yes,
many
yeah.
different stories people
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. It's just like, now they're going in and like, that guy doesn't qualify. What do you mean? He's a teacher, he's making $38,000. What do you mean he doesn't qualify? So different things are going on. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Black Keys in the house, guys!